Hello and welcome back to TNWKS, the Now We Know show, the show where we discuss a topic of interest and by the end we will have learnt something new and hopefully you will too. I'm Zak.
I'm Buzz and I am pleased to say that we've got our cryptozoologist expert, Glenn, back in the studio.
How you doing, everybody?
It's
Happy
Glenn!
to be back.
Yay, so it's the three of us in for a podcast on the Dogman.
The Dogman.
The Dogman.
If you enjoy the Now We Know show podcast, support Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon or join our members on YouTube for early access, ad-free content and exclusive episodes. Before we get into Dogman, it's time for a new segment to the Now We Know show podcast, and that is Quote of the Week.
Quote of the week.
Yes.
Do we have to sing a jingle? Quote of the week.
Quote of the week.
Quote of the week. Quote of the week.
Quote of the week.
Quote of the week. Quote of the week.
Quote of the week. So, for Quote of the Week, instead of the Word of the Week, we are going to start introducing Quote of the Week. So at the end of the podcast, we are going to share an inspirational quote or even a funny quote. It could be literally any quote whatsoever that pops to mind at the end of the podcast.
Righty-ho.
Just for fun.
Okay. There was one that I saw today, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention it.
Okay.
To the end of the
maybe
podcast.
at the end we can have a comparison, cross comparison.
That was it was bizarre one. But anyway, right. There's cryptozoology. This time Glenn has come in to tell us all about the mysterious Dogman.
Now, I'm really interested to hear about this.
I am absolutely fascinated by this one. I haven't done too much research on it because I want to find out firsthand from Glenn all about Dogman. So when it comes to UK cryptozoology, what are we talking about?
So there has been a few reports of Dogman in the UK, some of which are quite plausible.
Ooh.
So is Dogman, just like Bigfoot, Yeti and all the rest of the things that we've covered in the past, is it a creature which we also find all over the world? Right, okay.
Much like Bigfoot, it is found all over the world.
Okay.
Most sightings in North America,
Right.
like the Bigfoot.
Uh-huh.
In fact, there's probably a lot of people who claim to see Bigfoot or Dogman and possibly getting the two mixed up.
Right, okay, that's interesting.
Dogman, even though sightings have gone back a few hundred years, it's quite a new phenomenon in the world of cryptozoology.
Right.
I've known about it for a while, 20 odd years, but I've never really got up to scratch on it until recently. In fact, since last year, when a photograph was released by the authorities in Amarillo, Texas, of a creature on a security camera near a zoo.
I know the one.
Ah, yes, I can recall that.
I know the one because I think we brought that up in our werewolf podcast with Sarah Downing.
yes.
Quite possibly.
And I pulled that photograph up because I wanted to show her that. That was very telling.
Yes.
So that brings up the question, is Dogman a werewolf?
The issue with werewolf is the story goes that it's a man that turns into a wolf.
Yep.
Whereas
We're all familiar with
Dogman is... There's no such backstory of it being a lycanthrope.
Right. So is this a creature that is just... It's a creature like Bigfoot and that's it?
Yes, yes.
Right. Could it be mistaken for a werewolf?
Oh, quite absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so I've got to ask you at this point, what do you think of werewolves? Just briefly, werewolves are something, they're kind of more supernatural, would you not say?
Werewolves,
So are they something that Glenn is a believer in, werewolves?
I believe in werewolves, but not probably in the way you think. So I believe in werewolves along the medical grounds, like lycanthropy,
Yeah,
where it's a mental illness.
right.
And this is something interesting that I've come to think of recently, and that is with the epidemic of drugs in North America, bath salts and other designer drugs like that.
Okay, I've not heard of that one.
I've
I've heard of bath salts, but I
yeah.
take it this isn't what you would normally take a bath with.
No, it's It's a psychotropic compound.
Right. Okay.
And a lot of people who take this become animalistic. There has been a few occasions, and I'm sorry for the young people listening to this,
Okay.
but there has been a few occasions where actual people have attacked people and eaten their face
Ooh.
off. This is a real thing
Oh,
that
dear.
is happening
Ooh.
in the States
Oh dear.
Whoa.
due to these designer drugs. So I think within everybody, there is possibly something that maybe goes back thousands of years in the psychology of the human per-
A more
condition.
base instinct. you know.
Yes. So that in itself, you might not grow fangs, you might not grow facial hair, but your mind is that of a wolf, and that's what lycanthropy
What, you
is.
then take on the persona,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yes. So,
Right.
so that is what I
'Cause
consider.
I wouldn't think a werewolf, ergo, correct me please, wouldn't really come into cryptozoology because they're talking about unknown creatures that haven't been, like Bigfoot, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a werewolf is not cryptozoology, or is it?
It depends who you want to listen to and
Okay.
what you want to believe.
Let's stick that on the shelf.
Mm.
But Dogman is a creature that just stays the same. It's
Yeah.
not human that turns into Dogman.
Yes, it's possible. It's some kind of step in evolution for
Right.
for wolves. Now, I'm sure everybody has probably seen some silly TikTok videos of their cute family dog suddenly gets up and walks around on their back legs.
Yep.
Again, possibly a step in evolution. That dogs, just sometimes prefer to walk on their back legs and
So
not
you're
all
saying,
four legs.
so if you were talking of a big dog or a wolf hound or a wolf itself, if it stood on its hind legs, it's going to look.
Yeah. Now you take, for example, one of the largest wolves in the world, the Alaskan grey wolf. On its hind legs, it's going to be 6.5 foot tall, easily.
Very imposing.
Very imposing. So, in the UK, you briefly mentioned about the sightings go back for hundreds of years. So, sort of what kind of, how far are we talking about?
Oops,
When does-
sorry, so I meant the sightings in the US have gone
Right.
back that far. Europe, there was a situation in France, 1730, 1740, in a place called Gévaudan, which is south of France, where a wolf, a very large wolf, if you believe the reports, and the artist renditions of what the witnesses claim to have seen. This was a huge wolf, size of a small pony, and some of the eyewitness reports said it did rise up onto its hind legs. Now, this wolf was responsible, possibly more than one wolf. There's no way of knowing. But this wolf, there was about 300 killings of humans,
Wow.
children, farmers around this area in France. It's well documented in France. Now, they sent the army in, they sent hunters in, they sent zoologists in.
It's got to be a base for a movie right there.
Brotherhood of the Wolf
Oh, okay.
with Mark Dacascos. Not
Oh,
a bad
yeah.
film, not a bad film.
Oh, it's been a while
But
since
it's
I've seen that.
very, very loose.
Okay.
That's not the one where they've got a lion in it, is it?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
one.
Yes,
That's
I
the
haven't
one.
seen that in ages.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So that's what that's based on.
That's really interesting.
Okay.
So anyway, they caught this wolf and they killed it and they stuffed it. And for a while, it was on display in one of the royal palaces in Paris. Then it went missing. Nobody knows where, and the killing started again.
Ooh.
Okay. I mean, in Norse mythology, a lot of the people would wear animal skins, and when they put the skins on, then they transformed into that animal, whether it be a wolf or a bear, or in some cases a swan even. But so
Well, Native Americans have something similar in their
skin
beliefs.
change, skin
Berserkers? No,
skin-
berserkers are more kind
skinwalkers. is-
Yeah,
Skinwalkers
that's
is the Native American term, which brings me to an interesting point. So some tribal Americans, Native Americans, they believe that they have a spirit animal, and they can change from their human form into their spirit animal. So some claim that it's possible that these dogmen have, for whatever reason, they've started changing into the wolf, and for whatever reason they can't continue, and then they are trapped
They're
in that
stuck
form
in this limbo
of dog, of the
between
dog
dog
man.
and human.
Yes.
Right, okay. Oh, interesting. So, in the UK, when does it start being a thing that people are starting to spot this?
I've only looked back at one incident which has intrigued me, mostly because it's quite a local incident. In Cambridgeshire, and it involves a US Air Force base back in 1973 or 74. Now, when I first heard about this, it seemed just a very small incident where an airman, actually no, it wasn't an airman, it was a mechanic working on one of the fighter planes, saw something leap 2 fences coming towards him, and as it approached the light, he noticed it was a large dog-like creature walking on hind legs. He jumped in the fighter, closed the cockpit, and didn't come out until the following morning. He was that scared.
Wow.
Now, after looking into this again recently, I found out there was actually a police report put in, and there was reports of gunfire around the same time as well. That's all I've been able to dig up. I do have a friend, a retired US Air Force colonel, who was stationed in the UK at the time. I've not been able to talk to him yet, but I will be shortly.
Okay. So, any other reports? I think I read about up in Yorkshire, on the west, yeah, it would be the east coast. There's a peninsula.
Bridlington, Danes Dyke.
That's the one.
That's
Yes.
the one. Yeah.
That, again, Dogman pops up there.
This is funny. Yeah, there's been numerous sightings of this dogman in that area.
There've been a few. The ones I was looking at there was a few twitchers that were. There's like a station on the top of the cliffs where they can watch the seabirds and look out to sea, and then they kept being watched by some creature that was up in the.
This story's ringing a bell.
Headland.
It's ringing a bell.
And they were using their torches, and they described it being like a dog, but that it stood up, like a man. So that one. So carry on.
That's a well-known one.
Go on, fill us in on that.
Well, the area, Danes Dyke, there's a lot of paranormal activity that goes on around there. I've never been there, and yet I have very, very early memories of the beach around there.
So you've never been there, but you have memories of the beach.
I used to have a reoccurring nightmare as a kid.
Right.
And I remember it vividly. And then recently, while researching Dogman, I found out about this place.
Right.
And I was like, wow.
Gosh,
I know this place.
Whoa. This has got sort of like, you're reminding me of The Howling. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Where
Yeah.
There's pictures of this cove.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the woman finds herself there, and it's like looking at the picture and then suddenly going, I'm actually here.
Now, this is the bit that's really messed up.
Okay.
My reoccurring nightmare.
Yep.
I was young. I was maybe 5-6 years old.
Oh, that young. Right.
Yeah. I was hiding in a burnt out car on this beach.
Okay.
Because I was being stalked.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to say a dogman.
Right.
I was being stalked by the wolf from the Three Little Pigs cartoon.
Oh, I know. What, the old-fashioned one?
Yep, where he's wearing the dungarees and a
he's got
top
the really
hat.
long snout.
Yeah.
Oh, crikey.
Now, that is a dogman. It's an anamorphic wolf.
Yeah. So did you see that as a kid and then it just got stuck in your head?
Yeah. Yeah.
But how comes that you have this connection to that particular beachhead?
I have no idea. I have actually spoken to one of your previous guests, and we are planning on a trip up there at some point in the near future.
Okay. I've got to ask. Would this be Mickey Bolden?
It would be Mickey, yes.
Oh,
Ooh,
this will be
okay.
very
We
interesting.
might be interested in that certain trip.
I would love to follow up with that one.
Now we know show on the road.
Now, I did come up with doing a little bit of research to say I didn't want to spoil this particular podcast by looking too much into it, because I was wanting to obviously learn from your expertise on the subject. But there was one that did pop up on Google which referred to Hatfield Park, which is very close to us, back in 1990, where somebody was hiking through there and they got followed by a creature that they described as having a head like an Alsatian, and that they called a friend to come pick them up because they were out for a hike. The friend came to collect them, and he said when he got in the car and he could still see this thing in the bushes, and as they pulled away it stood up, right? And he said to his friend, did you see that? And he said, no, I didn't see anything, I just see it. But he said, and then like you said, he kept having recurrent nightmares about this creature.
Ooh.
And being stalked by this creature.
It's creepy.
The reason that sort of rung a bell is because, again, it's a close one to where we live, being it's Hatfield.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I've not heard that one.
Oh, right, okay.
But, I shall certainly be looking into it now.
Have a little look
like you
into
say,
it.
it's very close to us.
Yeah. So
definitely worth a visit.
And there's another particular place. Where is it? You're bound to know this very well, where you get a lot of these kind of crypto
Cannock Chase.
Cannock Chase. That's
There
the
we
one.
are. I
Do you
think we
wanna-
brought that up in the
We have, yeah.
Bigfoot.
It's,
So do we have sightings along there?
People claim to have been stalked by something,
Mm-hmm.
but they haven't been able to visually see what it is. But it's possible.
Yeah, because dogs in English and Anglo-Saxon mythology have always had this kind of connection to the dark side, the devil, and things like this. You know, you get the black dogs, and there's hellhounds.
I've seen a black dog.
Yeah. Oh, you have.
Yeah,
Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, it's. I was travelling from my home, or my parents' home, to my home in Puckeridge, and we used to go through the country lanes.
Okay.
And,
For the listeners, whereabouts is Puckeridge?
Puckeridge is on the A10. It's if you're travelling from Hertfordshire to Stansted Airport.
Right. Okay.
It's
That gives
about
people a depth.
2/3 of the way there.
Okay. Gives you kind of location.
Yeah, but we were driving through, or just coming up to a place called Levens Green, and I was in a little old mini clubman at the time, and yeah, we just went round this corner, and there it was, walking along the road towards us.
How would you describe this dog?
I would.
Hound.
To me, it just looked like a scruffy black lab.
Okay.
But, like all the legends and the stories say, it did have glowy, fiery red eyes.
Oh, wow. Well, that's totally going to catch your attention, isn't it?
Now, with the black dog, they say if you see one, it's either a good omen or a bad omen.
Yeah, it's usually seen as a bad
50-50 chance.
Yeah. I mean, I got divorced after that, so it might have been good, it might have been bad, I don't know.
I know there was one that was it's a very well known one. You're bound to know this, and I can't remember the church. So this particular church, the congregation were at service when there was a massive storm, crashing of thunder and lightning outside the church, and then the doors smashed open, and there was this huge, supposedly the legend goes, huge black hound
I've
with
heard it, yeah.
red eyes, and it killed 2 parishioners in the church, overturned all the benches and everything all over the place. And the church, even today, and I can't remember the name of the church, but it has scorch marks where it supposedly clawed the front door of the church, and they've still got these claw marks in the door. So what I'm trying to say is, the idea of hellhounds and hounds and things, are they? You know, they go very, very far back in English and Anglo-Saxon history. So do you think these are connected to the sightings of Dogman?
No, I don't think it is.
Right.
I think it's more along the lines of there's a couple of things to me. I think what it could be, like I mentioned before, the evolution of dogs and wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is their next step of just wanting to walk upright. Obviously, there's
So you-
stories like that. Now, depending when they were, stories get exaggerated over times. But the other thing that I look at when I think of Dogman, and there's a possibility that, yes, they're out there. No, they're not actually dogs.
Right. Okay.
Now, I can't explain the ones in the UK so much because we don't have this particular animal in the UK. But in the US and parts of Europe, they have bears.
Mm-hmm.
Now, bears with a serious case of mange
Yeah, I've seen.
look like the most
Hideous.
hideous, demonic-looking creatures.
Have you ever
out
seen one,
there.
Zach?
No.
You see a bear with mange, it's literally like hairless.
Oh.
And they look... you could imagine... A bear, obviously, they do stand up on their hind legs
They do, yes.
without even thinking about it. It's just one of the things that a bear does. So, yeah, that is pretty...
Creepy to look at.
Very. After the podcast, we'll have to... In fact, while you talk, I'll see if I can punch one up.
Okay.
Carry on. So you've got these bears that...
Yeah, I honestly think it's probably just more natural than supernatural out there.
So how would that relate, though, to the UK? Because obviously,
Again,
Glenn,
I
I don't think we've
answer
probably
that.
got any mangy bears that
Yeah,
are roaming
or
around.
wolves.
Do you think, I mean, honestly, I'm going to ask you right at this stage, do you think that Dogman is something that exists in the UK, or are people thinking they're seeing something that they're not? Or there's just some people that think it's a lark to put a werewolf mask on and lurk around in the woods?
I want to believe, but until I see some form of concrete proof,
Yeah.
So you're sceptical in the UK?
Yeah, I'm sceptical in the UK.
I will say that that one that I referred to in Hatfield Park, the gentleman there did say, because when he was out hiking, it wasn't the only time that he'd had a run-in with this creature. I think he said there was another occasion which was in a very remote place, late at night. So therefore, he felt that nobody would have known that it was worth dressing up as a creature to be in that place at that time.
Yeah.
But
I see what you mean.
also at that time, in the dark, your mind plays tricks on you.
I think you mentioned this before,
Yeah.
didn't you?
I mean, I've been through the woods and in the day, and I've seen things which, to be fair, it looked like a dog stalking us. We got up close, it was just a log laying on the ground.
Yeah, there you go. Now, I've punched up, for the listeners, I've punched up a picture of a
Oh.
mangy bear.
Oh dear.
If you can imagine that standing up on its hind legs.
Yeah. I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, that would not be... you know,
Not the most friendly looking of.
Okay, there's another one. Now, that one's still got hair on the back of his neck. You got to say that
That looks very
werewolf-like?
kind of werewolfy.
But it's a bear.
Wow.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I think we just cracked a case. In America, anyway.
Yeah, I honestly, I actually can see... So there you have the sightings of Dogman. You have a creature which is seen on all fours, I've got to say, from the little bits I've read, on all fours and then standing on its hind legs, having a snout and a face like a German shepherd, but having the features of a human being. Looking at those pictures of mangy bears, I can see that.
I'm going to throw a little spanner in the works here again
Oh,
now.
this is why you're in. We love having our experts in.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
The general consensus is it's a primate. And I know I've said this in a previous podcast.
Yep.
I believe that there are different kinds of Bigfoot. You've got your ones down the south of America.
Although the
skunk apes.
skunk apes.
And then its relatives, which are more prone to being up north, Alaska, Canada, around that way. So being a primate, and people have said this as well when they've seen what they thought was Bigfoot, or possibly Dogman, they've described it as being baboon-like in face. Now,
Okay.
baboon's face, quite a long
Yeah,
snout.
yeah, they do have a long snout.
Yeah, so that is, again, maybe it is Dogman, maybe it is a wolf on hind legs,
So
or
you're-
maybe it's a different
so you're thinking
variant
instead of
Bigfoot.
So instead of being a dog as such, you're going primate, possibly.
Possibly. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, what do you think, though, about the people that then say that these creatures aren't physical creatures, that they are some kind of
spirit being
that appears when they want to appear? How does that sit in with the sightings and the legend behind Dogman? Because we do get that with Bigfoot. We've said that before. What was it called? The Xanu?
Xanu, yeah.
You know, and that's like they come from the interdimensional creatures that only appear when they want you to
That
see
was
them.
an interesting Facebook group.
And speak to you via dream speak or something. Anyway, I don't want to go too far off target.
No, that's fine.
and
That's
talk
fine.
about Bigfoot, but you know, as far as Dogman's concerned, what's your feelings on that being some kind of spiritual being rather than?
Well, see, not so much spiritual, but your point you made there about interdimensional.
Okay,
Or
maybe I'll say
possibly-
interdimensional being.
Or possibly even alien.
Right. So
So, if you look at Egyptian mythology,
yeah, you have
a lot of people say that their gods are possibly from the stars.
right, so like Anubis.
Now, yes, exactly. You take Anubis, body of a man, head of a jackal,
yeah.
and again, there's your Dogman.
They do say that if you look at the Sphinx, you know, the body of the Sphinx, which is supposedly the body of a lion, but it is so weather worn compared to the head of the pharaoh that they feel that at some point in prehistory that it probably was a jackal head that was on that,
Yeah,
and then it
I've
got
heard that
carved
recently.
into a pharaoh head by a later pharaoh, which is why the body doesn't really
Match
tally up with the head.
Yes, yeah. More than possible. There is so much about Egyptian culture that.
So
and
we are now diving off onto a Stargate tangent now. aren't
I was
Little
thinking
bit,
that. I
little
was
bit.
thinking that.
we? So
Good movie.
yeah, it's a good
It is,
movie.
yeah.
So what are your feelings on that? I mean, you know,
Stargate or just Egyptian mythology.
yeah,
Again, it's just one possible variant of
Mm.
what it might be. I haven't got all the answers. I wish I had all the answers, but if I did have all the answers, life would be boring afterwards.
okay.
Yeah, it's again. I'm kind of more along the lines that it's a more natural thing. A bear with mange or a wolf that's decided to walk.
How
I'd
would,
love to be proven wrong.
so how would you explain the sightings in the UK? Because I can see exactly what you're saying. That if you're in Europe where they do have bears, and if you're in the States where they have bears, yes, most definitely that could easily be mistaken as something like Dogman. But obviously we are getting sightings and have had sightings in the UK. So what's your kind of feelings on that?
Well,
Do you think there is something out there that's lurking around? Or do we have our own UK bred werewolves that pop up once in a while?
I don't think it's. When I mentioned earlier about werewolves being a more psychological condition, so I think possibly if there are people out there at the moment, now we do have, and I try not to get political here, but we do have a big issue with homelessness in the UK.
Yeah.
And it goes hand in hand with mental problems. So yeah, there's quite possibly people out there
Living in the wild.
decide to, it's a better life to live in the wild.
I think you're talking about my mates, the bushcrafters and wild campers.
Yeah, but they don't really go around.
That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's what I think. We've just come up with an answer on this one. It's I know for a fact that you get bushcrafters and wild campers out there in places like the Kill the Forest and places like that, and I can hear something. I can hear something. There's something out there. And it turns out you watch another video and there's another camp 300 yards away in the dark with another load of bushcrafters.
Didn't we watch a video or something where there was something lurking outside somebody's tent?
Yeah, there was. We
That was
watched.
during the week, wasn't
We
it?
watched a video. The guy actually is can't remember the channel, but is a very nice chap, and he did a follow-up video which I don't think you saw.
Oh,
But
okay.
what caught my attention was it was
This sounds very familiar.
something walking around my tent at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've.
I think I've seen it.
And that caught my attention, so I watched the video, and he's in his tent, and it's like, there is somebody walking around, somebody or something walking around my tent. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. He's going, excuse my French, I'm buggered if I'm going out there. But crunch, there was something.
Protected by your nylon.
Protected by your nylon. We've all seen Dog Soldiers where the zip goes.
Yeah.
And anyway, but he had a follow-up video, and it turned out he was accused by a lot of people on YouTube that what he'd done as a video, which was purely clickbait.
Mm.
Yeah?
Right.
Anyway, he was at the time, do you remember, he was texting his friend who was camped a little way away from him, and his friend was texting back saying, there is definitely something walking around my tent as well. So they were like...
Back and forth.
Both of them doing bushcraft videos, and they camped away from each other so they could do their videos, but something was stalking around the tents.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of know what that feels like, because I've camped in the New Forest before, where in the middle of the night you've suddenly got New Forest ponies, and they walk past, and they twang.
And big old things.
Yeah, and the hooves catch your guy ropes and twang, and the tent's shaking about and stuff. And it can be really quite disconcerting.
Yeah.
And I remember being at one place in the New Forest, this is a good few years ago, and there must have been, what do you call it, where'd you put your dogs for holidays? Kennels, that's it. There must have been a kennels in the distance somewhere, because I could hear these dogs howling. And then my tent started to go twang. It's like, and snuffle, 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 snuffle. What on earth is this? And that's enough for you to say, yeah, I'm not going out the tent. I'm staying in here. And it went away. And in the morning when I came out, hoof prints all around the place. So it's obviously what it was.
Now, a similar thing actually happened to me the other week.
Oh,
I
yes.
went on just a random hike.
You went for a walkabout, didn't you?
Yeah, about 10 miles.
Yep.
And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go camping.
Yep. Yeah,
Just
half
wild
the
camping,
view for those people
half
out
of
there.
view. So it was kind of half open to the elements. Had a fire, had to restock that with some wood a few times during the night. But there was this tapping next to my head, just outside the tent, like something grazing across the outside. And I didn't know what it was, but it was kind of like a persistent, it was there for a while. It was like, getting up, having a look. No, nothing. Yeah, nothing. I don't know, it must have been like the wind or something.
You weren't touching any
branch.
were you near any branches?
No, not really.
All right.
There was a barking deer around.
Oh yeah, we know that. They
Ah!
yeah, and the other one in the UK is when you get the foxes screaming, they can sound quite eerie.
Yeah,
But anyway,
especially in the dark.
Yeah. So my point was, this guy was accused of doing clickbait on his video, and that it was all made up. But anyway, when you're doing wild camping, a lot of the time what you do is you get a permission from a landowner, because for those people listening that don't know, there is no, apart from on Dartmoor, which is controversial at the moment, there technically isn't any right to roam in England. So while camping, you need the permission of the landowner.
Yeah.
And him and his mate had the permission of the local farmer. And then it turned out that the farmer's wife had seen lights in the woodland.
Okay.
And when her husband came back, she said, I've seen lights in the woodland. So the farmer that he knows had taken a walk out there and had been walking round and recognised his tent because he'd seen his camp before. And just like, that's Bob or whatever, and gone home again. So what he did is he actually did prove that somebody was walking around the tents, but it was the farmer, and the farmer didn't want to disturb them. Once he recognised who it was, he didn't want to disturb them, so he went back. So it wasn't clickbait, and it was happening, and it did happen, but for somebody in that position, quite eerie.
Yeah. So, I mean, with your fantastic facial hair, Buzz.
Oh, yeah, yes.
If I saw you
lurking around
through the trees during dusk, and you were maybe half a foot taller.
Okay.
But even then, when it's getting dark,
it's when I got my slingbacks on.
the light plays tricks on you. I mean.
Yes, there is a skunk monkey there. Buzz the skunk monkey.
I wonder what that smell was.
Yeah, no, I've been busy all day.
But no. What we talked about before about explaining UK sightings, something I did read recently was But people who have seen these Dogmen, they claim that you will only see Dogman if it wants you to see it.
Okay.
Right.
So, are we talking like an adaptive camouflage or something there?
Yes, yeah. Again, pretty much the same as Sasquatch.
Is it going back to that photo manipulation thing?
Yeah. Oh God, I was trying to think what it was. Pareidolia, something like that.
Okay.
That sounds like a good word of the week.
Don't quote me on it. I know it's something along those lines.
Parachuting with doilies.
Yeah, that's not going to work. Yeah, it's again, that's if you're walking down along the lines of a spiritual thing.
Okay. But you did mention about the camouflage of the North American wolves.
Yes, it's a very grey, earthy grey kind of colour.
Well, it's evolution at its best.
Yes.
It's making something disappear in its natural environment.
But interestingly, somebody shot and killed an Alaskan grey wolf in the last couple of years, and it went viral at the time because this thing was huge. We are talking the size of a small horse, easily.
Right.
And they did tests and they did find out that it was an Alaskan grey wolf, but it really did not look like your standard wolf.
Okay.
It was.
And it didn't turn back into a human.
No, it didn't. No.
What was that good werewolf movie we watched that was kind of like a wolf hunting people? Do you remember that one? Do you remember that one? We watched it. I think it was on Netflix. Or
Can you give me more? Feed me more.
I think it was a foreign one.
Okay.
Foreign one, maybe. And there was like a cave, and she shot it with a silver bullet. But her daughter got bitten.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm ringing a bell.
Did she climb down into the cave?
Yes.
Yes.
And
yes.
she got attacked by it.
Yeah.
And it was quite brutal, very violent.
Okay.
But her daughter then turned into a werewolf.
Right. No, I do remember it now you mention that scene, but I can't think of the name of the film.
Oh, shucks.
Oh, shucks. There you go.
Maybe we'll come up with it after the podcast.
Okay. So,
Maybe I can stick a photo in.
so what do you think your chances are, or any of our chances, of actually seeing a Dogman in the UK?
My brain wants to tell me very slim.
Okay.
But honestly, I would love to be proven wrong. Which is why at some point in the near future this year, I will be checking out the area near to us where the incident happened at the US Air Force Base.
Right. Now, this is probably clickbait, but I want to show you this because it came up within my searches. Okay, I did a screenshot of this, and it was supposedly a hiker in Kentucky that went missing. They found his camera, and this was one of the last pictures that was on his film reel. So now this may be clickbait. You might know about this, and you can say, "Buzz, absolute joke." But I remember when we were talking about Bigfoot, you told us about was it the Russian hikers?
Rock apes. Rock apes?
Yeah,
went missing?
and
there was
the Yeti.
And there was a camera film there which had pictures with
The
something.
Dyatlov Pass incident.
So I thought I'd run this by you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it might be something you've seen, might be something you haven't seen, or it might be an absolute load of dinkum. But supposedly this was found on somebody's camera.
Wow, that's not what I thought you were going to show me.
It's meant to be like the last shot on this missing hiker's camera.
I mean, it's definitely not a recognised wolf.
And it's definitely upright.
It's definitely upright. It's very skinny. I mean, all the
Yeah,
reports
the arms-
of Dogmen
the
I've
arms
seen,
kinda
they're
look
quite
very-
broad.
Yeah, they look kind of very human arms.
Mm-hmm.
But that head is completely disproportionate to the body.
Yeah.
It's not a recognisable mask, so it's
I mean, yeah,
possibly
technically-
a custom job.
Technically,
If it
it
is a
could be
mask.
photoshopped, but I don't know. But is it something
Could
that
be
you-
AI generated
have
now.
you come across this one before?
I haven't, and if I walked through the woods and saw that,
I'd walk the other way.
might need new underwear.
Yeah, I mean that is quite a freaky one.
But while we're talking about fake images or video and Dogman,
Oh yes. Well, I noticed you've got a bag in the corner of the studio.
yeah, this is. We'll get onto him in a second. Before I mention that,
There's a bag. He did tell me before he's brought a friend with him.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I just want to quickly talk about the Gable video.
The Gable video.
Yeah.
Haven't heard of this.
No, please enlighten us.
It's only come to my attention in the last 6 months of this particular video. It was for the early 70s, I believe.
Okay.
Um,
That would be slightly later than the that famous Bigfoot one. Then that was late
the
60s.
Patterson.
Yeah, so that was late 60s,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
that was late 60s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Gable video, it's an amazing bit of footage. There's 10-15 minutes of it, and
Gosh, normally when you get these kind of videos, it's like just
Seconds.
yes, yeah. Well, towards the end of it,
Okay.
they're driving along the road, and
Okay.
the camera picks up something on the side of the road.
Okay.
In a crouching position, stalking.
Okay.
Then this creature, it doesn't stand upright, but it does run in a very otherworldly way towards the camera.
Right.
And it looks incredible. You can see...
So these people are in a car, are they?
Yeah. I think at some point they get out the car.
Uh-huh.
And it does go for them.
Right.
So they get a very blurry, because obviously it's the 70s, the
70s.
cameras aren't that great.
Well, at the time, they must have been using a cine camera.
Cine 8, yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
I take it there's no sound on it then.
No, there isn't. There isn't. There's also a bit of footage of a local police officer picking up pieces. And it does look...
pieces of people?
Yes.
Not,
And
no, I thought picking up pieces, it could have been
it's an incredible
Word
bit
for
of
something
footage.
else.
And it's also an incredible fake.
Right, it is a fake.
Yes. It was actually filmed in, I believe, 1987.
Uh-huh.
And there was this whole thing back in the mid-70s with a DJ called Steve Cook, who released a song called Legend of the Dogman.
Right.
And it was a whole publicity thing
Okay.
that somebody decided to do to go along with this.
Right, and that footage was never seen. And what? And then they released it later in the 80s, or did they make it in
I've
the
only
80s?
seen it recently,
Okay.
but I've got a lot of books with stuff in which dates back from the mid-90s all the way through to hundreds of years. I mean, that's where I first read about the Gévaudan creature.
The what?
The beast of Gévaudan.
Right, okay.
And there was nothing in there about this Gable video.
Right.
Which is why I think a lot of people were convinced it was real. But no, they have come out and said it's fake now.
Okay.
Also, there are two very well-known incidents in North America. There's the Michigan Dogman, which is seen, apparently it comes out every 7 years.
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
Like Jeepers Creepers.
Yes, I was going to say Jeepers
that's the
Creepers.
first thing I thought of. And then there's the Bray Road Beast incident.
The Bray Road Beast.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's ringing a bell.
It is ringing a bell.
Might have a book somewhere.
What a lot of people don't realise is these places are very close together. They've just got one of the Great Lakes in between them.
Yeah, the Lake Michigan, yeah.
Yeah. So, is it the same one? Creature? Just going on a jaunt somewhere?
What, popping in the lake, swimming,
Yeah.
coming out again? Well, there's a possibility.
Maybe.
Hollow Earth.
I was thinking of a Red Dwarf reference there.
What's that then?
Anyone got a poppadom the size of Lake Michigan?
That's it. That's the curry monster.
Yes,
That's
the
it.
episode DNA in
DNA.
season 4.
There you go.
Right.
Right.
So, do you want to meet Snoopy?
Yeah, yes, who's Snoopy?
Snoopy.
All I can see is
Snoopy.
that there is a bag in the corner of the studio.
Okay, here we go. This is a fella. He spends most of his time in the garage, and comes out for Halloween.
You better pull him out the bag then. Give him some air. Oh, oh my
Okay.
goodness me!
That is something to look at.
Something freaky. Now, if you put that on in a forest, you are definitely going to freak people out. All I can say, ladies and gentlemen, which we have got, it is basically like a werewolf head with a huge main neck piece, which must go right over your shoulders, down your back and your front.
It's the eyebrows.
It's the eyebrows.
It's the eyebrows.
The face is...
So for me, it's always been the eyes, because they are glass
Oh God,
yeah.
it's got glass
It's
eyes.
very
Yeah.
wow.
So what on earth? I mean, this doesn't look like your standard Halloween mask that you would buy for a werewolf.
No, it's not. It's,
so what's
it's
the
not actually
story?
a mask at all.
What's the
It's-
story behind?
It's part of an animatronic puppet used in a.
Well, that would be human size then.
Well, yeah, it's similar to the way some of the Muppets work from the Muppet Show.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You would have somebody in a costume with one hand working the head and the mouth,
Right.
Yep.
a fake arm not being used, and a real arm
Yep.
that would be used. So it was along the lines of that. Now this was custom made for a KFC advert,
Okay.
which was
Hang on, KFC and werewolves.
Yes.
Kentucky Fried Werewolf.
How does this kind of come together there?
well, it was never shown in the UK
Okay.
because it was deemed too scary.
I can see that. I can see that.
Is this what happens to was it Colonel Sanders when there's a full moon? Its finger looking good.
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
It was shown in Europe, and it was advertising KFC's barbecue chicken wings. And they
Okay.
were warning you that if you eat these chicken wings, you might become a bit of an animal.
Right.
Right.
So it did come with air bladders as well, with teeth and tongue, and part of the back as well,
Yeah,
pulsated.
it's a fantastic, fantastic mask, if you want of a better word.
I just thought you might like to see them as we're talking about
We'll have to take a
Dogman.
We'll have to take a picture.
I'm going to take a picture and put it on the thumbnail.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Okay,
amazing.
So anybody who's listening to this, they can look at the thumbnail and they can see what Snoopy looks like. That is crazy. So do you think that Kentucky Fried Chicken advert is knocking around out there?
It is available on YouTube as long as you know what to type in.
Okay.
Okay.
That is free. And how did you manage to get hold of Snoopy then?
So both myself and my ex-partner used to work for Ridley Scott,
Right.
and it was one of his subsidiaries that used to make adverts for certain things,
Okay.
and it was them that produced the KFC
Oh
advert.
wow.
Right. So there it is, sitting in the props department.
Yeah, so they said to my ex-partner, on your way out, can you throw the wolf in the skip?
Can you just throw the full human-sized wolf in the skip?
So I get a phone call asking if I wanted a werewolf. I said yes.
Of course, any rational person.
Any rational person would say that.
Of course.
And that's when Snoopy was rescued.
Yes.
Because can you imagine that gone off to a rubbish dump, tipped out the
What
back of a lorry?
the hell?
What the hell's that? You know, except we don't have raccoons actually in the UK. A raccoon gets inside of it and starts running around.
Funny enough, I used to have a neighbour with a pet raccoon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what, in the UK.
I used to take it on a walk on a lead.
Okay,
Oh.
wasn't called Rocket, was it?
I don't know, it was a while ago.
So, what other things can you expand upon regarding Dogman in the UK?
Much like Bigfoot, I think we're very limited on wild spaces where something like this could hide.
I mean, although it is said that we do have big cats that people just easily miss, but
Yes, we do.
they've been around for
And
years.
If there was Dogman, those big cats would quite possibly be a natural food source for Dogman.
Wouldn't it go the other way? Would the cats eat Dogman or would Dogman?
Depends who's the bigger.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe the stories about Dogman, he is on a par with Bigfoot for size-wise.
Yeah. What about intelligence?
Intelligence.
Has anybody had any
I-
experience with
I have
Dogman?
read and seen interviews with people who claim to have seen Dogman, and one thing they always say is, one, it just looks like pure evil, and two, you can see it trying to work things out.
Certainly, if that was that photograph that I showed you, yeah, that's pretty horrible.
Yeah.
If you were presented with that, you go, yeah, no, thank you.
I think I'm going to sit this one out.
Yeah.
But I think we would be finding more dead livestock around the countryside.
So, do you think it's really just missed sightings in the UK?
I think so.
Although you do feel that something happened with that air engineer.
Yeah, he must have seen something. Now, in the US government, and again, it's it's a bit out there kind of idea, but maybe it was the real American werewolf in London. Cambridgeshire.
American Werewolf in Cambridgeshire. There's the sequel.
Maybe,
That's the sequel. Well, there was a sequel. That was in Paris.
On a US Air Force base.
Looks like Snoopy.
Maybe it was something to do with the US.
Right, so one of their personnel's come over, full moon,
Yeah.
went off for a jaunt.
Yeah. There's a whole
Interesting.
film there as well.
Yeah.
US
Yeah.
fighter pilots who are werewolves.
American Werewolf
Wolf
pilot in
Squadron.
London.
Is there one? Or is this a movie?
That would be
idea?
good. I'd watch that.
So to kind of round off on this on Dogman, so highly unlikely in the UK that Dogman is a thing. Is that what you're saying?
I
Well,
think
from-
the only way it could be a thing in this country is if it was along the lines of supernatural or otherworldly.
Okay.
I don't think it's. I don't think
Right.
we've got the
Okay.
room in this country to have a.
Okay. So we
Natural.
reckon that we've probably rounded up and the whole
we've
idea.
Please prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
Send in
it's
your
all about the
photograph.
discussion.
Yeah, if you've got a photograph of Dogman or a sighting or a tale to tell us, contact the Now We Know show and let us know all about it, you know. And if you can get into the studio, then come in and we'd be more than happy to interview you and do a podcast.
Have a chat.
Have a chat. So, Glenn, we've discussed Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
We've now discussed Dogman. Another one that comes to mind is Mothman. Is that something you know about?
Ooh, I know
Is
about
that-
Mothman.
Is
yes.
that something you'd like to come back and tell us about?
Absolutely.
Because I am quite
Absolutely.
intrigued about Mothman.
Don't forget the aliens episode we did.
Yeah, we did aliens with Glenn. At this rate, you're going to get a special badge for coming in. So
The New Jersey Pine Barrens is somewhere I definitely want to get to visit.
Okay. Is that to do with Mothman? Is
That's actually no, sorry, I'm completely off there. That's the Jersey Devil.
it? Another one, the Jersey
Another
Devil.
one. Yeah,
So-
Mothman was somewhere
You're
else.
teasing us.
But,
You're
teasing
teasing
us.
us.
yeah, the Jersey Devil. That's a pretty freaky one as well, and there's some amazing evidence on that as well.
Okay, well we're gonna
Hoof patterns.
we
Snowy roof.
right, we're gonna have to come back. We're gonna have to come back on that one. This sounds fascinating. Right.
So that brings us to quote of the week.
All right.
Has anyone got a quote they would like to share?
I don't know if this is a particular quote, but when I went to get some petrol this morning,
Yeah.
I happened to see. This is really funny. You get the newspapers when you come to for those people that are listening abroad outside the UK. When we go to a petrol station or a garage in the UK, just as you go in the doorway, they tend to have that big spread of all the newspapers. Yeah, all the Sunday newspapers. And bless the Daily Star or the Sunday, whatever it is, Sport or something like that. There was one, and the headline just sprang out, and it said, "Aliens spiked my angel delight." So that's my quote from today. Aliens spiked my
That's
angel
certainly a
delight.
funny one.
That's my quote of the day.
Did
that
you
is.
read the article about it?
No.
No, it was just the
I just
title.
all you need to do is read a title like that and leave the rest to your imagination. So what about you, Zach? You're the one who's instigated because this is actually the first podcast. This is our 51st podcast,
Yes,
is it?
that's
So
true.
we're just starting our next half century.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So thank you, Glenn, for
Fond
being
memories.
our
Fond
special
memories.
guest.
Absolutely stoked, but
So what is your quote of the day?
That's why I asked people. I didn't come in with a quote.
No, you didn't.
That's why I was opening the conversation.
Oh,
if
right.
anyone had one to
Right,
share.
well, I'm gonna be armed for next podcast. Then,
Yes,
but
yes.
the best I can offer is aliens spiked my angel delight.
There we are.
What about you, Glenn?
well, I do have a bit of a quote, also a bit of a question.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah,
Go
we're
for
ready
it.
for it.
Who let the dogs out?
You did. You let Snoopy out the bag.
And that's all you're getting from me.
Okie dokie.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of topics or activities you'd like to listen to in future episodes. That's a big dog man goodbye from Zach.
It's a howling goodbye from Buzz.
That was a good one.
I got that. Was that Snoopy?
And that's a goodbye from Snoopy and a goodbye from me.
Goodbye, Glenn, and thanks for coming in once again. Thank you.
You can find the Now We Know Show podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Check out the Zak Wylde Productions social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or visit the Zak Wylde Productions website at www.zakwyldeproductions.com. Please get in contact. We'd love to find out how you're listening to us. So get in touch in the comments and don't forget to check out Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon to become an official ZWP patron today.